And here we go. We're off. Third time's a charm, because I hit the record button twice before and nothing was happening. So keep trying. Perseverance, my friends. That's the key to success, or one of the keys to success. So, you recognize the lovely face next to me. It's Dante Collinelli, deputy editor of Miami Dolphins on SI, joining me to talk some Miami Dolphins on a day when they actually didn't practice. So we're not going to be talking about practice recap. No hyperbole about who looked good, who didn't look good, because the analysis there, I'm going to say it right away, tends to be over the top at times. But that's what training camp is for. How are you, Dante?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be back. It's been a minute since I've been on the show. Been relegated to the second string. That's okay. We'll get them in the regular season. It's all right. I'm in training camp too. It's all good.
Very, very nice. Nice. Love the analogy. I would tell you, I think your spot on the roster is pretty secure. So you should be happy with that.
We like to hear that.
Yeah, and we'll get you back in the forefront once training camp is over. But for now, this is a day off. In terms of news, we're recording this about 4:24 when we started, and we held off a little bit because 4 o'clock's the time when teams turn in their official transactions to the NFL, which is also the time you will see the Dolphins make news with their transactions. And I was kind of thinking on this day, well, at some point they're going to put Kader Kohou on injured reserve. Per Mike McDaniel's comments the last time he spoke to the media, that hasn't happened yet. And I was discussing to Dante before we came on, not exactly sure. Are they waiting for a corresponding move? I don't know. There's a report out there that his injury is not a complete ACL tear. It's a partial tear. And then maybe it's like, okay, is there a hope that he could be back for at some point during the regular season? Although that would contradict Mike McDaniel, who told us he's out for the season. Obviously, he's not bound by that until they put him on IR. And a refresher on the rules, they put him on IR now, he's done for the season. If they put him on IR at the time of the cuts to 53, he can be brought back. So if there's a chance that Kader could play in 2025, it would behoove the Dolphins to put him on IR at that time. And it's the same with safety Ashtyn Davis, of whom Mike McDaniel said the worst was avoided.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little strange. I don't know that I'm going to read too into it until we get into like next week, right? Like they still have tomorrow. They could do it over the weekend. We'll see. If we start to get into next week and he's still not on IR, maybe there's something to read into it. But I'd be pretty surprised. I mean, Mike's usually pretty pointed and doesn't really reveal more than he has to with injuries, to a degree that, frankly, he doesn't have to be as guarded as he is with some of the things, right? But like, I feel like if he wasn't 100% sure that Kader wasn't going to play this year, he wouldn't have said that. He doesn't strike me as the type of coach who would be sloppy with that type of language around injuries. Ashtyn Davis, to me, is the more interesting one, right? Because they said it's not season ending, so there's really no incentive to put him on IR right now, as you said, right? So he can come back. They might wait. But Davis is a big one too. Like whether or not he's going to land on IR at the beginning of the year, I think that matters. This was a player who was going to maybe not be a starter, but have a substantial role on the defense and also on special teams. And so opens the door if he's going to be out for 2-3 weeks, if he's not going to return at all for the beginning portion of the year. It opens the door for a different safety to make the roster, a different safety to actually play snaps and get playing time on defense as well. So I'm not really going to read too much into Kohou just yet. And I think Davis it's just kind of wait and see. Let's see how long he's going to be out. Boot and crutches, typically not a quick injury when it's that quick. So we'll see.
No, and I think a lot of us, without saying so, because again, we're not going to speculate, and apparently I'm going to guess it's not what it is. Otherwise, it'd already been declared out for the season. I think some of us it smelled like a torn Achilles, but clearly it's not. And as you mentioned, Mike McDaniel is not one of those to make premature evaluations. No. So there is a roster move to discuss, however, one from yesterday, which came in after Perk and I finished our podcast. Wish could say it's a highly significant move. I'd be lying. And I don't like to lie to you good folks. I don't like to lie, period. When I'm wrong, it's because I honestly thought that I was right, because I don't lie. Anyway, so it's not a big roster move, but we try to be thorough over here. The Dolphins placed offensive tackle Obina Eze on injured reserve, and they replaced him with Jalen McKenzie. The quick career summary of Jalen McKenzie: he's been with 6 teams, bouncing on and off practice squads since he entered the NFL as a rookie free agent out of USC in 2022, has yet to play a regular season game. So on either the Dolphins have unearthed the rarest gem there is, or this is a training camp body to give some reps on the offensive line.
Yeah, I think it's the second one there, right? Like it is. I feel bad for Easy, right? Because they just signed him and he hit season-ending IR like what 3-4 days later tops.
Yep.
Like that's tough. That stinks for him. McKenzie does have some 49ers experience, if I'm not mistaken. So that's probably the connection that I would draw if they're out on the free agent market and they need an offensive lineman to fill a spot. They're going to look and see if they played for the 49ers recently, and that's going to be an indicator of, hey, we can put them in there, and at least they'll have a fundamental understanding of what we're trying to do on offense. So I wouldn't read too much into that either.
No, without question. And what was I going to say? 6'5", 315. Again, played at USC. As you mentioned, he does have some time with the 49ers on the practice squad. And as he, of course, had been signed after Beryl Matos had to be airlifted to the hospital, he's now out of the hospital. That's good news. I think the Dolphins right now, and I just actually looked not too long ago at the remaining free agents available at tackle. It's a thin group. Holy moly, it's a thin group. And right now, if I had to say concern number one on this team, I think maybe above and beyond cornerback, certainly is a concern. That backup offensive tackle, knock on wood, nothing happens to Patrick Paul or Austin Jackson, because right now the group is shaky with a capital S.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this on the offensive line preview show. I think offensive line depth's a myth, especially at tackle. I really don't think
you gotta have. I mean, there's going to be a massive drop off, but it can't be like crazy.
Yeah, right. So I think there's a degree to which you are comfortable with the drop off that you have versus to the degree that you're not. I have some small optimism for Larry Borum only because the scheme will do a lot of work for him. Yes. Specifically. I think, like, again, he's a backup. He has some versatility. I think specifically for him, so many of his losses in Chicago were like Justin Fields takes a 5-step drop and doesn't get the ball out on time, and Borum's just not very good on an island. In this offense, Tua, the ball's coming out with Tua. Right. So, like, now, to your point, do I really believe that Larry Borum is like a really good backup tackle? Like, no, probably. Like, I'm gonna have to see it. Like, how much faith do I have? I don't know, not a ton, but I also do think that, like, the scheme will help him. I feel the same way about Keon Smith, another completely unproven player. But I think, like, from a schematic perspective, from like a growth perspective, I'd like to think somebody like Smith, who's been around this long, is at least going to be comfortable in the scheme and in his assignments. And look, for a backup tackle, like, honestly, that's really all I'm looking for. Is if you go in there and I don't notice you, great. Like, that's what I'm looking for from backup offensive linemen at any position, frankly. And I do think Borum and Smith could get there. Am I confident in that? No, but I think it's an outcome. I think it's a reasonable outcome. But yeah, I mean, look, they can't feel secure in offensive line depth. I don't think any team really in the league is going to feel overly secure in that. So the Dolphins targeted Borum. That was one of the first signings that they made in free agency. That was clearly a player that they picked out because they felt like he was going to be a good fit. We'll see, right? Like that's all we can say. Hopefully we don't see, honestly, like you said, rather just watch Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson all year. But they clearly think Borum's going to be that guy because they really weren't very aggressive to get a different swing tackle at any point. And so we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, and this is where I'm going to point out that the Dolphins' first depth chart of 2025 is going to come out next week because that's the week of their preseason opener against the Chicago Bears. And maybe we can more myself here can talk more freely about where each player is listed because our media reporting rules contain some restrictions, unfortunately. So there's certain things that I could say, but I'm not supposed to say, so I'm not going to say them. The last point I will say about this is right now, until proven otherwise to me, like Kendall Lamb represented kind of a pretty good, and yes, I know you talk about depth on the offensive line being a myth. Kendall Lamb to me represented a solid backup offensive lineman.
I agree.
And they have taken to me right now, a considerable step backward with that position with Larry Bourne. I will also tell you that I had some hopes for Daniel Brunskill once they signed him. Again, veteran. I would tell you what I saw in practice the other day was highly problematic. A couple of instances, it was like I noticed him for the wrong reasons. So there's not a ton of interior offensive line depth as well with Liam Eichenberg, who, if we're talking the myth of O-line depth, that's good depth right there considering his starting experience. And Dante here is chuckling because I'm gonna guess he's not a Liam fan. For O-line depth, I'm sorry, that's pretty solid. But right
he's fine if he's O-line 8 or 7. He can't be O-line 6. That's not doing it for me. He's got to be 7 or 8. There's got to be somebody between him and the starters. If he's the second guy, the second backup to take the field, fine, sure. He cannot be the first backup off the bench. That's not doing it for me. I'm sorry.
You mean the second interior offensive lineman?
Yeah, or tackle, interior. It doesn't matter the position. Center, don't care. He cannot be the first backup off the bench. Okay. I'm sorry. He can be the second. The second's fine. If we lose 2 guys and Liam Eichenberg's got to go in there, does not bother me in the slightest bit. You can do a lot worse than that. But the first guy has got to be somebody a little bit better. And your point that –
and who is that guy?
So that was going to be my next thing is your point that you haven't been a fan of Daniel Brunskill is concerning because I think in an ideal world, I think we both thought he would be that guy. And so you saying, hey, at practice doesn't look like that guy, not great, suboptimal, not good. So and Eichenberg, whatever you and I think of him, is not playing football right now. He could start the season on injured reserve, and we don't know when he'll come back.
He started on PUP because he's already on PUP. And by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to point that out. If anything happens to Ashtyn Davis, for those wondering, he cannot be placed on PUP because he's already practiced. PUP is for those who never start practicing. The Dolphins, if it's not season ending, what chances are they're going to do is they're going to carry him on the 90-man roster until the cuts to 53, then put him on IR for him to return. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we don't know even if Eichenberg, he could start the year on PUP. Maybe he misses 4 games. Maybe he misses 6 games. Maybe it's 1 game. Maybe it's 0. We don't know. But, I don't even, as much as I don't dislike Liam Eichenberg. He's a fine depth offensive lineman, but you can't even rely on him right now, right? That is just a question mark. I don't know. He hasn't practiced. We don't really know what's going on. And so you have that. You have Daniel Brunskill, who currently is not living up to expectations. You just have to hope it's a ramp up. And as he gets back into shape and back into the swing of things, he gets better. And then you have Larry Borum, who tape not very good in Chicago, not great. And then you have a player in Keon Smith, who's pretty unproven, player in Andrew Meyer, who's pretty unproven. And then you have a slew of other guys who are very unproven behind them. So I think your point, just bringing up the offensive line depth in general, is valid. There are some question marks for sure.
Yeah, and I would tell you, I think there's something there with Andrew Meyer. He's actually looked pretty solid to me from, again, as much as I can observe the offensive line while trying to watch everything in practice. I'm feeling him a little bit. I think the offensive line as a starting 5 has a chance to be pretty solid. I don't know that I'm on track. I see reports of Patrick Paul dominating practice. Seems a little hyperbolic to me, but I'm a hater. I'm negative Nancy or whatever I was called. Maybe I'm more realistic. You decide. But I think there's reason for optimism there. Same with Jonas Avainaya. Aaron Brewer still has not taken part in practice. And then on the right side, James Daniels, who Mike McDaniel clarified his comment about the need to see the doctor to get cleared. The clarification from Mike McDaniel was that he's already been cleared to practice. The meeting with the doctor, the follow-up, was to get cleared without limitations. And to that end, he did more work at practice on Wednesday than he had at any other point so far in training camp. So that's obviously good news. That dude can play. And Austin Jackson is solid on the right side. I think maybe they're I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. He's solid on the right side. So for me, again, the offensive line has possibilities. The depth is a massive concern. The secondary is the other obviously big topic of conversation for this team. Jack Jones came in with you did a film breakdown on his tape on Miami Dolphins on the side.com. I haven't yet to notice him flash. Storm Duck is having himself a good camp, I will say that. Kendall Sheffield was solid. Not great, but solid. He missed the last practice with an unknown issue. Outside and Isaiah Johnson, there's absolutely something there. Jason Marshall Jr. has looked okay. I'm not even sure the cornerback position is as much of a crisis there. And this is where somebody's going to come back to me, well, how come Jalen Waddle's burning him up all the time? A lot of the work Jalen Waddle's doing is against zone coverage. And you know what? He's going to find his zone. The dude's fast. He's got the timing down with Tua. So completions are going to happen. And again, I'm not so sure right now that I wouldn't put backup offensive line as more of a concern than cornerback.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Obviously, I'm not at practice, so I don't have the same firsthand information that you do.
This is where you believe everything I tell you.
Right. So blindly, obviously, I agree. No, so I'll play devil's advocate for the sake of the show here. I think it's really impossible to get a good grasp on corners at training camp. I don't think the training camp is a remotely good evaluation tool for individual players. I think it's very easy to get caught up in results-based versus process-based at training camp. You see an incompletion and you go, oh, good coverage. And you could be very wrong about that. Right. And then that's because you're trying to watch a million things at the same time. And you might not have a good vantage point, or you might have caught the play late, or you might be blocked by somebody standing your way. Right. It's not anyone's fault. It's just the way that it is. And so the thing with corner too, is that an offensive line has this problem too. When a corner makes a mistake, it's usually a touchdown. And when an offensive line makes a mistake, it's usually a sack. So you notice it. You know what I mean? Corners, when they get burned, it's bad. It's a 30-yard completion. It's a first down on 3rd and long. It's a long touchdown. The thing with corner is that it's a high volume spot. And so I don't know if I'm necessarily worried about it in week 1. Colts don't really have any receivers that scare me particularly. But, man, I don't really like the idea of anyone facing down even Khalil Shakir on the Bills. I think he beats every single corner that isn't Kader Kohu, who's not supposed to play this year, in man. And if you play zone against Josh Allen, he's going to pick you apart. I don't – again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these young guys have really taken a leap. I like your comment about Storm Duck. I thought he was passable for a UDFA player last year, and I think he's got an opportunity to be a solid starter outside. I like him. Isaiah Johnson's a player I liked in college. I like Isaiah Johnson. I think there's something there. So I'm not saying the quarterback room's just full of duds. I think this team is asking too much of these players too quickly in my just from the outside perspective. I'm not there. The idea of we're going to roll out there with Storm Duck on one side and Jack Jones on the other, and Mike Hilton in the slot, I'm sorry, it just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't. And Minkah Fitzpatrick's great at safety. Ifeatu Melifonwu hasn't played. He hasn't practiced. Ashton Davis is hurt. It's just not going to do it for me. It's adding Jack Jones. I'm for the move. I think he's a good gamble to take. Mike Hilton, I still think is a solid slot cornerback. I'm fine with that move. They're not bad moves. I don't think that it's some I don't think it's going to be like a total disaster, but I am very skeptical. And again, I'm not at training camp. I don't have the benefit of seeing the positives that you have seen and these guys grow and work in the scheme and work with the coaching. So maybe I'm happy to be pleasantly surprised, but I think people really underestimate how different training camp and preseason football is from regular season football. Like it's just
without question. But
Jamar Chase is a much different animal than what route Tyreek Hill is running because your opposing offense and you're able to plaster him in a one-on-one. It's not. It's just.
Here's the thing, though, Dante, is the Dolphins, and I don't know what the exact final numbers were, but play a lot more zone than they play man.
They do.
So, and I think so. Here's the other question: if you're a little bit queasy about, and I have to use that word again. Apparently, I have to use it like somebody pointed out. I have to use it once. So queasy about the cornerback position. Okay, what are the options? Is Rasul Douglas coming off the season he had last year that much of an upgrade over Storm Duck or whoever might Jack Jones or Isaiah Johnson? Not the way he played last year. Asante Samuel Jr., who, if he's right, book on him is he can get burned and he's not a good tackler. I'm not sure how much of a staple that is or how much of a requirement priority that is.
That's the book on Jack Jones. It's the same player. If you want to paint with broad brushstrokes, I mean, Jack Jones. I mean, his tape in the article that's up on Dolphins on SI right now. There's a clip at the bottom where I stitched two plays together against the Bengals. Where the first one he undercuts a screen and runs it back for a pick six. 2 drives later, the Bengals run the same play, but they fake the screen and run the guy right by him for a touch. That's his whole tape. Is those 2 plays. It's either Jack Jones makes the best play on the ball you've ever seen, or the guy's 15 yards behind him and he's staring in the backfield or something. So honestly, I'm okay with them taking a shot on somebody like Asante Samuel Jr. If you're gonna miss with guys with upside, in my opinion, Rasul Douglas does nothing for me. There's no upside there. He if you're gonna miss, go get a guy who 50% of the time he's gonna make a play on the ball. I'd rather have that than Rasul Douglas, frankly. But to your point, is that a meaningful upgrade over what the Dolphins currently have? I don't know that it is. I think Asante Samuel Jr. would be from a football perspective. I think the problem with him more so is is he going to play? Is he on the field? And the Dolphins have, as we've mentioned, plenty of injury problems, not only in the secondary, but across the entire roster. And so do you want to add another player to that list? I don't know that you would want to. So I think your point is completely valid. Is that a meaningful upgrade? Honestly, it might not be. I think the Dolphins, they made their bed. They might just have to sleep in it at this point. It might just be what it is.
Okay, now we're talking about reasons for concern, and we're not negative people here. Never have been, despite perceptions. We're trying to be fair and balanced. So the flip side is the reasons for optimism. The passing game, when it's clicking, it's really good, and it's clicked a decent amount of time. It's not like other media members who shall remain nameless would have you believe that Tua's completing every throw and everything's downfield. To that, I say, simmer down. No, but he has looked sharp. Then again, Tua's always looked sharp in training camp since Mike McDaniel came in. Jalen Waddle looks phenomenal. I will say this. Alexander Madison has completely blown me away because from what I had heard and and the numbers also didn't have a great year last year. I thought Ollie Gordon, too, could push him for the number 3 spot. There's a clear gap between the two right now in my eyes, based on what I've observed so far in training camp. And I'm going to be honest, I have yet to be impressed by Ollie Gordon, too, who maybe will be more impressive once joint practices start, once the preseason starts, because right now I'm not seeing it. To the point where if you were to tell me right now he's not making the 53, I'd say, yeah, I could see that. I do have him on my 53 that I posted on MiamiDolphinsOnSide.com earlier today. It would make for probably good podcasting to go over every one of them, but then you wouldn't go read the story on the site. and I need you to go read the story on the site. So we're going to ignore it. But there's a tease right there. To me, the names to watch. This is going to be my tease. Go see the story. The names to watch for the 53 prominent names who could be on or off. Or I'll give you a summary of like the position. Quarterback to me is a slam dunk what they're going to do. Running back, Ollie Gordon too is the name to watch. At wide receiver, hell of a battle beyond the top 4, even though I'm not the only one. I think all of us in the media room are still waiting for Nick Westbrook-Akine to impress us. And part of it is he's not getting his number called. He's not getting open because maybe he's still dealing with the playbook. Not sure, but not making a big impact. At tight end, O'Connor's the name to watch. On the offensive line is who the hell are the backups going to be? On the defensive line, I'll give you one guy who I think most Dolphin fans would look at the roster and go, yeah, he's not making the roster. Don't sleep on Matt Dickerson. That dude has looked like a baller. At linebacker, the name to watch is Channing Tindall. At cornerback, the name to watch is Cam Smith. And all I'll say right now, if he wasn't a second-round pick from 2 years ago, he's not making the roster. And I still don't know if he's going to make it. And at safety, who knows? Is that a good tease there, Dante?
I like it.
Let me ask you your thoughts on your 53. What's your toughest decision on your 53?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I think you highlighted receiver. I think that's a tough one. The reports that I have seen is that D. Eskridge is looking nice. You know, he's making some plays.
Yes.
I think your point about Nick Westbrook-Akine is interesting. I think they gave him a multi-year contract, so I think he's just going to be on the roster. Like, I think he's just going to be on the roster. Like, it is what it is. So I think you're competing really for like one spot there, and there's a lot of guys. I've seen good things about Taj Washington as well. It seems like he's made a few plays. You know, I've seen that the UDFAs have made some plays with Quinn Ewers throwing them the ball in certain periods. You know, not that they flashed in a ton, but you know, I've seen their name pop up. You know, and so it'll be interesting. I would probably have Eskridge there, just guessing that he would be the last guy. I think he gives you some versatility on special teams as well. He can return kicks, he can return punts for you. You know, obviously the Dolphins don't really have a shortage of options in that area, but if you are keeping a fifth receiver, it's not a bad option to have. So that's an interesting one. Defensive tackle, that last defensive tackle spot's interesting. It's really intriguing that you mentioned Matt Dickerson, not really a player who is on my radar because he's on the roster, but like, you know, I probably would have told you guys like Matt Butler, Ben Stilley, and Zeke Biggers probably had the inside track on him before training camp started. So interesting to see that you feel like he's flashed. That's cool. Would be a cool story. Safety is going to be really interesting because Melifonwu hasn't practiced, and we don't know the extent of Ashton Davis's injury. And so that'll be really interesting because if those guys start the year on, I guess Melifonwu's still on PUP, so he could start the year on PUP technically.
He's on NFI.
He's on NFI. Okay, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, NFL. Very descriptive list, not football injury. So I don't know what's going to happen with safety. In an ideal world, it's very easy. It's Minka, Melifonwu, Ashton Davis, Elijah Campbell probably because he does a lot for you, and then it's like one of Dante Trader, Patrick McMorris player, right? It's probably Dante Trader just because they just drafted him. But if Davis is on IR at the beginning of the year, if Melifonwu never makes it back, I mean, it's like, okay, so then it's Minka, Elijah Campbell, Patrick McMorris. Like, there's a lot of options. So go check out the site, see who we think's gonna snag those spots because it's really interesting. There we go.
Well done. I can't believe I'm going to say this. If you look at Nick Westbrook-Akine's contract,
you think they can get out of it?
Give him a $2 million signing bonus. Got a guaranteed salary of $1.2 million. They can cut him next year, cost them $1.6 million, and then they'll have $1.2 million. I mean, $400,000 next year. It's not a lot. That's not a lot. And And they also gave a couple of their rookie free agents, Andrew Armstrong, Theo Weiss Jr., decent signing bonuses to sign as rookie free agents. And I'm not so sure those guys haven't outplayed or haven't looked better than Westbrook Ikine. Just throwing out there that maybe it wouldn't be, I'm not predicting it, it wouldn't necessarily be the most surprising thing in the world. I will also mention another guy, Malik Washington, who looked really good in the offseason program, very early in camp, has been invisible maybe the last 5 practices. And you mentioned the Eskridge. Obviously, Hill and Waddle are going to make the team, so that's something to keep an eye on. Okay, I believe that's going to wrap it up for this, this edition episode of Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Depending on when you're looking at this programming note, back tomorrow with Perk to recap practice as the Dolphins get back on the field. Thursday evening, 7 p.m. That's 7 p.m. different time for Thursday evening, out of respect for the Pro Football Hall of Fame game where Trey Lance is going to do battle with Kyle Allen as the starting quarterbacks for the Chargers and the Lions. But it's football, so some folks are going to want to watch it. It's a Dolphins Collective with Dogly Durong, T Defense Talk, Omar Kelly, and myself. Check out the written content from this dude right there. Very, very talented young man there, Dante Collinelli. And my passable work as well on MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com. And we will be back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching and have a good one.